Alright, in this video I'm going to talk about the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which is a law. It was signed in, or it's a bill, it was signed into a law, okay, back in 2022, I believe. Um, and it kind of happened, and the first thing we seen was if you're 21 or under 21, try to buy a gun. They have a time limit and they do a more in-depth background check looking for juvenile sealed records and all this other stuff, which generally, I guess, in a normal background check didn't show up. So now, if you're in a certain age group, you are held to a tighter scrutiny when it comes to background checks. And that was the big stink that was going on for a while, okay? Being the fact I'm over 60 years old, something like this really, has no way with me one way or the other. And I have no sealed records or have ever committed a crime of any type as a juvenile or an adult. Okay? So, people like me, when you hear this, it really doesn't bother me in one way or the other. Okay? And you kind of don't pay attention to it. But looking at this bill, I went and actually read this bill, read through the pages of it. And the one big thing is, which everyone just realized and the ATF said they're going to use, is they kind of changed the definition of what a gun dealer is, and and that insinuates that if you're selling guns for profit, you should be a federally licensed dealer and have background checks and all this other stuff, which leads to, and see, this is what isn't clear. Does it mean everyone must be a dealer, or must somebody go through a dealer to do a sale, okay, to where there's a background check and all this other stuff, and they can keep track of gun sales privately, and all that other stuff. And that's not quite clear because they have not announced how the new ruling or rules are going to be yet. So there's a lot of confusion. But going back to this bill, there are other things in there that come on to gun control and that. And if you read through the bill, like I did, you read through the first parts about something about Medicare, Social Security, and this. There's all kinds of different things in this bill, okay, that have nothing to do with gun control, supposedly. So it shows this stuff with changes to Social Security and some other stuff. And then it comes into the domestic violence thing. Okay, and see, this is where your other gun control is. So there's changes to the definition of domestic violence where it doesn't have to be your wife or someone that cohabitates with you. They call it the boyfriend loophole or something. If you have an intimate relationship with another person, and I guess I don't know if it matters they live with you or not or whatever, but you're not married, okay? And there's some sort of an argument or domestic violence. And domestic violence, if the cops come to your house because the neighbors are complaining because you're yelling, fighting and that, in some instances the police make the decision whether this is domestic violence or not, especially if there's some sort of a physical confrontation, okay? The individuals don't have to be the ones to file this. But they've expanded that in a way, and then again, red flag laws, okay? Suspicious behavior, which now can be taken from anything to my Facebook posts about politics or general topics. I say, hey, I don't disagree with this. People can look at that as a threat to the community, okay, if you want to take it to that limit. That I don't like a certain law passed, that I don't like certain things, I disagree with what's getting broadcast on the news. I say, I don't agree with that. You can be categorized as somebody who's a threat to the general public. And also in here, what they do is there's so many billions of dollars. And see, this is where the federal government does this. And it comes to DWI laws, health insurance, and all this other stuff. If the state passes the law or proves that they're enforcing this and making their state laws stricter. The government has money that if they pass more restrictive legislation, the government will give them funding to help enforce this. Whether or not that money is actually used to enforce that, and everybody likes taking big chunks of money from the federal government. And this is another evil thing that's wedged into this bill that we don't look at. As gun owners and most of the people that come to my gun channel, we worry about the laws like, hey, banning private sale of firearms. That's screwed up. We don't like that. Or banning certain types of guns, or putting restrictions on it. But when you're talking about other things, because I guess it's like being a convicted felon. If you have a misdemeanor, I think it's a misdemeanor domestic violence thing, you cannot legally own a firearm. And in some instances, I believe that if they declare this domestic violence, they confiscate said firearms in the home or apartment. Okay, they're confiscated by the police immediately. And trying to get them back is another thing. Okay, you can, but usually when you show up and talk to a lawyer about doing this, he's looking for a check for about $3,000 to even talk to you, all right? If not way more. So, again, it's the whole thing kind of skirts around. Now, if you don't do anything, if you don't get in trouble, if you don't have issues in the police thing, it's one thing. But things can get interpreted different than what they are. So it does kind of put you at risk, okay? So that's another way of doing it. And the fact that they're offering states to kind of get more restrictive with their red flag laws and other such things and promising them money, okay, is how this is done. Because some states that their economy sucks, you know what, they don't care. Politicians like money, okay? And they will enforce these laws. It's kind of, what do the guys say? It's like they hang the carrot in front of the horse, They dangle that out there. Well, if you change your state laws, and they did it with the DWI laws. If you wanted federal funding, you had to change your state, the level of alcohol in the bloodstream to where it's just about, I don't know what it is now, but basically if you walk into a crowded bar room and take 2 or 3 deep breaths and walk outside, you can probably trip a breath of me without even really drinking. Or it's to the point where if you drink 1 or 2 drinks or a beer and a half in an hour, you're going to hit the legal limit or go over it. So that's how the mechanism works. And see, when we're all focused on the gun control, we're not looking at the other kind of background things in there that are also working together, all of it, to enforce gun control. Okay, that's why if you get a chance, go read this. If I might put a link to it. I'll try to find it, put a link down there, and then you can read through all the pages yourself. Some of it has nothing at all to do with guns or safety, but it's a good thing to read so you understand what's going on. All right, guys. If you like the content and everything, please hit the like button, subscribe, and stay tuned.